So in tonight's event, we're going to be talking about creating a home audio and video production studio for about $100. And you can spend more, and obviously you could probably spend a little bit less, but the tools and resources that I'll be showing you are things that you can use to create a podcast, that you can use to do interviews, recorded interviews that you're going to incorporate into video that you're planning to sell. We're going to be talking about tools you can use if you want to do online table readings for your screenplays, or if you want to read your stories out loud, sort of as full cast dramas. We're going to be talking about tools you can use to record 4K video using your camera. So it'll be a host of tools that are very straightforward to use, that don't cost very much, that provide professional quality results that are of high enough quality that you can actually sell them. Let's first sort of sync up on objectives. As a creative professional, you've got hundreds of ways to sell your work. If you're sitting at home and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know how to get started, there's no way that I can create content that I can sell, it's going to take me months to write a book, it's going to take me months to launch a podcast, it's going to take me months to shoot a documentary, months to shoot a film. To a significant degree, none of those things are true. It's possible for you to create content very quickly within a matter of days or weeks, and it's possible for you to make that content good enough to sell, and it's possible for you to find a market for that content using some of the techniques that we talked about last week on how to promote your content using social media and how to buy ads and so forth. So it's possible for you to create content and sell content relatively quickly, so your career doesn't have to be on hold, even in these somewhat trying times. So this workshop is designed to give you solutions you can use and purchase quickly and start using profitably. I want to mention that none of the links in the resource, none of the things that I'm going to be promoting, and none of the links that are in your workbook are affiliate links. So I don't get any kickback from Amazon or anyone else for anything you elect to buy. I'm just recommending specific products and types of products because they're what I use. Likewise, I don't make any warranty that the solutions that I recommend are going to work for you. And there's several reasons for that. One, companies change. So it may be the case that the lights that I bought, even though I'm showing you a link that I used to buy them, are not the same lights that you're going to get because the manufacturer, the person selling the stuff, used a different manufacturer to create them. It might be that the service that I recommend, it has changed the way it offers its service, and so it no longer is in the same ballpark of price, or it's no longer as flexible as what I recommended at the beginning. The good news is that if this happens to you, chances are you'll be able to return the product or cancel the service, and you'll be able to go find something that looks more like the product that I recommended. There are an infinite number of solutions available online, and once you know what you're looking for, it's sort of easy to find it. If a given lighting kit that I've recommended doesn't actually work out for you, you can certainly go look at 60,000 other lighting kits and find one that looks more similar to the one that I actually recommended versus the one that turned into the one that I suggested, one that turned into something else. You can go back and find one that looks more like the original. That said, I've been using most of these tools for quite a long time, and when they've broken, or when I've been working with others to set up their accounts, everything sort of worked as advertised. So I have pretty high confidence that the solutions I recommend will work out for you as well as they worked out for me and for the folks I support. I want to talk about a few assumptions. I'm going to assume that you have an iPhone or an Android phone, which lets you record audio and video, and upon which you can install apps from the Apple App Store or from the Google Play App Store. And I'm going to assume that you've got a PC, excuse me, and I'm going to assume that you have a PC or a Macintosh upon which you can launch websites and record video, etc., using standard online tools like Zoom.us. If you do not have an iPhone or an Android phone, or a PC or a Mac, I strongly urge you to go on to Amazon and look up refurbished Mac, or refurbished PC, or refurbished iPhone, or refurbished Android phone, and you'll be able to buy what you need at a relatively low cost. So you don't have to buy new in order to have something good. For example, if you decided to go buy an iPhone 6S, which is they're on iPhone 10 or something ridiculous. An iPhone 6S is a really good camera you can use to capture video, and they don't cost very much at the moment, and there's a lot of used ones around. So take a look at the refurbished market if you don't happen to have the iPhone or the right kind of phone or the right kind of PC, or right kind of Mac. I'm going to assume that you've got some sort of space in your house that you can record in. Now, it could be a corner you call an office that's always available to you. It can be a closet that holds a desk and a chair. It can be a kitchen table or a dining room table that you set up whenever you need to produce. But what's important is that you know the dimensions of the space, because you're going to buy resources that fit in that space. If you're going to be recording in what amounts to a master closet, and you've only got a 6-foot wall space, you don't want to buy a photographic background or a green screen background that's 7 feet across. It'll just cause you grief. And if you are recording in a closet, if you, sorry, not in a closet, if you're in a cabinet, like you've created a cabinet, you want to make sure all the stuff is actually going to fit in the cabinet. You also have to have a time of day during which you're going to record, because it's quiet. For most of this is going to be in the evening, because that's after the leaf blowers and after the traffic has died down. And for some people, it actually is going to be the middle of the night. I know a lot of people that produce podcasts who actually tend to record at like 2 in the morning, because there's literally no one around. The children have gone to sleep and the world is dead. You don't hear airplane sounds, none of that stuff is there. And the reason is because I'm not going to be providing you with information about soundproofing. Mostly because it's too expensive, and mostly because it's kind of inflexible. If it's the case that you're going into a closet, one of the reasons to put your little studio in a sort of a master closet that's like 8 by 8 or something like that is that it's probably dead quiet in there. And it's probably the perfect recording studio. But most of us don't have that luxury. And it's kind of crazy to build walls and stick soundproofing all around you when you're living in a house. So I'm just going to assume that you have a time of day that you can work, and you have a space that you can put your equipment in. The first thing I'm going to recommend is Zoom.us, which is the application that you and I are currently speaking on now. Over the course last month, as we rolled into our new relationship with COVID-19, I did multiple presentations showing people how to use Zoom in order to record content, in order to run live events, for example, live screenplay readings, or live story readings, or interviews, and so forth. So if you're listening to this call, you're a member of the VIP program, you have access to all of those resources. And if you go look at the long list of resources, you will see that you have, close to the very top, you have a set of videos and workbooks that cover how to run Zoom meetings for up to 100 people, and how to run webinars, which are more like staged productions. There's an audience, and then you can have a speaker and guests. It's more like a traditional stage. So when you get a chance, you can take a look at that. The cost ranges from $0 to $15 a month, unless you wanted to use the webinar service, in which case you'll pay an additional $50 per month. And you'll notice that there are links in your workbook that talk about recording meetings and events on your computer, and it has instructions for recording. And it also has instructions for recording on your iPhone or Android phone. And it also has instructions on how to control your display, like who you're seeing on your phone when you're running events. So you can go ahead and review these presentations to learn how to create MP4 files, which are video files. These are the kind of video files that you post on YouTube. And you'll also see that it creates M4A files, which are standard audio files, and you can use those for creating podcasts and so forth. And I mentioned in passing, if you want to do a podcast, you can choose to, let's say you're doing a story podcast. So you've got a screenplay that you want to read, and you bring actors on board. They read the screenplay out loud a couple of times while you're recording with Zoom. Then you take the recording into iMovie or whatever your editor is, and you edit the recording. So by the time you're done, you have a video that shows the reading being performed by all of these actors. Then, once that editing is done, you can also export the audio from that file. It's already edited. Export the audio, and then you'll have what you need to create a podcast. So you'll have done one recording, which is ending up serving 2 purposes. One, a video that you can sell or you can make available on YouTube, or you can send off to people you want to buy your screenplay. And the second use is for a podcast that you want to make available to customers, or that if you want to sell the audio as a kind of audio book, you can do that as well. We'll talk about sales solutions at the end of this event. So Zoom is kind of the Swiss Army knife of capturing content for sale, because it allows you to, if you want, you can just record yourself telling a story, or you can invite other people on to tell a story, or you can invite other people on to interview, or you can invite a whole audience of people to watch you, or you can have just you and the person that you're talking to. I mean, it's a very flexible solution. So Zoom is well worth the $0 to $15 a month it'll cost you. And you can certainly spend another additional $50 if you felt like it to get the webinar solution. And I mentioned in passing that Zoom webinars can host, thousands of people. So and they're relatively cheap. So you can get a 99-seat theater for $65 a month that you can run an infinite number of events, and the events can be infinitely long, and you can automatically record them, and you can automatically use the recordings to create video presentations you sell or give away, or audio presentations that you sell or give away. Let's talk about audio capture and editing. Sometimes you just want to record audio. Obviously, you could do that with Zoom, but let's say that you're out and about. Let's say we ever leave our houses again, and we're out in the world, and we want to be able to interview somebody face-to-face. On your telephone, there is an app called Voice Recorder, and actually Voice Recorder Audio Editor. And when you use that, you can record audio, and then in addition to recording audio, which is incredibly handy, it will also, there's a button that also allows you to transcribe the audio. So it will take the audio and turn it into a text file, which you can turn into an article that you sell. It's also a good way if you want to be able to tell stories, or if you want to be able to sort of record your podcast, quote unquote, on location. So you go to the beach and you're recording your podcast while you're watching, the sunset over the Pacific. You can do those kinds of live events, taking advantage of live sounds using your cell phone. To edit your audio, you're going to use a tool called Audacity. And at the end of this event, I'm going to take you to all of these pages so you can sort of get a look at them. But at the moment, I want to just sort of go through all of the tools, and then I want to show you the pages where you can acquire these tools. So I think Voice Recorder and Audio Editor, I think cost about $1.99. It's really inexpensive. All the apps are very inexpensive. Audacity is entirely free, and it's a free full pro editing application, which lets you edit audio. You can use it to put in music at the start of your podcast. You can use it to cut out mistakes that you make while speaking when you're recording your podcast. You can use it to add in sound effects like doors closing or people going up and down stairs. And you can use Audacity to record without using your phone. Audacity has a record button. You just press the record button and you'll be able to record without just using your computer, and it will just record audio and you'll be able to edit it right away. So Audacity is a good just recording application as well. Audacity is entirely free, and I've actually I did a presentation on how to edit audio using Audacity. It's one of the resources that's in your Gumroad library. I did like an hour-long introduction on how to put in music, I think, and how to cut out bits that you don't want. Like if somebody makes a mistake reading a line and you have them record the line again, you can delete the mistaken version of the line. Audacity is used by a lot of people that create podcasts. It's one of the most popular free applications on the internet, and I suspect that, and it does work just fine on both PC and Mac. There are also a huge range of other audio editing apps, as well as video editing apps, in the Apple and Google Play app stores. So let's say that you happen to have a tablet computer, or you really have good eyes and you can use your phone. You can get tools that will let you edit video on your iPhone, or edit audio on your Android phone, or on a tablet computer. So if you don't want to get Audacity, if it's seems too cumbersome or too complex, there's a million other tools that are widely available which will run on your phone. So you can find a billion of those tools, or they're just everywhere. For example, there's a version of iMovie for your phone, I believe. There's certainly one for your tablet. iPhone tab or your Apple tablet. Now let's talk for a moment about recording professional video. When you want to make a movie, an actual movie that you're planning to distribute, you can do that with an iPhone. People have created award-winning films that have been distributed, that have had theatrical release and also have been distributed via huge distributors on iPhones. And there's some good reasons to do that. First of all, your iPhone is actually a very good 4K camera, and it has been since the iPhone 5. So even old iPhones make good recording cameras. They're very 4K resolution. They are portable. It's easy to use multiple iPhones to do a multi-camera shoot. And they don't really cost that much. Old iPhones might cost you $100 or $200, and that will be one with a big hard disk, so you can record, 5 or 10 minutes or 20 minutes of video, which is more than a lot of big cameras can record easily these days. And furthermore, the content that you create will be incredibly high 4K resolution, and the colors will be good and so forth. So, but in order to do that, you need to use professional camera software that's designed to work on your iPhone. And I mentioned 3 here: ProCam, ProCamera, and ProMovie Plus. Now, the interesting thing about all 3 of these tools is, one, they allow you to specify what resolution you're shooting at. Because you can shoot your films at 4K, or you can shoot them at sort of 1080i, whatever, at standard broadcast resolution. And it's obviously the case that a 4K film has more value than a broadcast quality film, but broadcast quality film takes up less space, and that may be a good thing. So these camera tools allow you to pick what resolution you're shooting at. Furthermore, they allow you to pick what frame rate you're shooting at. Now, whenever you're shooting a film that you want to do commercial release for, you're going to make sure that all the footage you shoot is at the same resolution. And if you decide to go out and buy video to incorporate into your film, you're going to make sure that that video is also at the same frame rate and the same resolution. So if I am shooting a ghost story in a haunted house with 4 iPhone cameras, I decide that I want to have an establishing shot flying over the Maine woods, I'm going to go buy that Maine woods footage at the same 4K resolution and at the same 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second that I've shot the rest of the film at. Because what you'd never want to have happen is a mismatch between any video footage on your project. What happens when you do that is your editing software has to interpolate, and it ends up creating frames that aren't as good as other frames. And what happens then is distributors don't like your film. They want everything shot at the same resolution, at the same at the same frame rate. Also, these tools allow you to specify things like aperture. So this is for the people, good cinematographers use things like film speed and aperture and so forth to be able to create really very beautiful, high quality footage. So there's a whole bunch of other tools that are in these camera applications, and they're not available in your normal camera tool on your iPhone. So it's these tools, which I'll give you a look at in a minute, just provide you with a whole host of settings that make it so you can shoot full bore, very high quality photographs, poster quality photographs that are as good as you can shoot on a really good Canon still camera, as well as being able to shoot very high quality video. The fourth thing I wanted to talk about is this stupid little application, which I just truly love. And it's called Toon Camera. Now, what's interesting about Toon Camera is it lets you take photographs and video and turns them into sketches or paintings or animations. And so if you want to be able to you can use Toon Camera to do crazy things like go and take photographs of people, maybe actors that you hire, and then turn them into something that looks like it was drawn, and then you can use that to create an actual comic book. And because it'll look like somebody drew the pictures using a pen and ink or using a pen and paint instead of using a computer. The other thing that's nice about Toon Camera is it lets you create animations. So I think in the past we've all seen movies, and we've also seen commercials where animated people appeared to be talking. And really it was just people who had been videoed, who'd been fed into a tool like Toon Camera, and they've been turned into what looks like a cartoon. So Toon Camera, I think, is just cool because it lets you, you can do it to create everything from comic books to animated sequences in a film, or to turn into very high quality art and posters and so forth. It's just a wild little application. Now, Android phones have similar applications, but the problem is that all Android phones are made by different manufacturers. So iPhones are all made by Apple. They have each iPhone platform is different. Like an iPhone 6S is different from an iPhone 10, is different from an iPhone 8, is different from an iPhone 5. But they're all made by the same producers. They all meet the same specifications. So all iPhone 5s are alike. All iPhone 6S's are alike. When you're buying an Android, the manufacturer, he kind of decides what camera he's going to put on, and he decides what audio is going to be on, and he installs an operating system, one of the Android operating systems. So it means that all Android phones can't really use the same video editing software, because it's dependent upon who the manufacturer is and the characteristics of the video or camera solution they've actually put onto the platform. So if you're going to be shooting commercial films, I kind of recommend that you just go buy yourself an iPhone or 5, refurbished iPhone or 5 to shoot it with, because you'll be able to have a more consistent output than you will if you try to use one or more Android phones. And you'll also probably end up with a higher quality product. But there certainly are high value camera apps that work on Android phones. It's just they just don't have the same number of options and settings. Now we're going to talk briefly about lights and backgrounds. Generally speaking, when you're shooting if you're shooting a video of yourself making a presentation, it's kind of good to have 2 to 3 lights. Usually you want to have one directly in front of you, and the reason is you want to fill in your face so that you don't have a bunch of dark shadows on it. And then usually you want to have another one to the side or slightly behind you to make your hair look nice, and also to separate you from your background, so you don't you don't blend into whatever you have behind you. If you get a third light, you want to have one at a 45-degree angle that's fairly bright, and then you're going to have another one that's 45-degree angle to your left, let's say, and that's going to be more diffuse. It's going to be softer. So you have one side that's really brightly lit, another one that's softer lit that's filling in your face, the shadows on your face, so your wrinkles don't look like moon craters and don't look like long ridges in a mountain park. And then you want to have one light behind you that lights up the back of your head and your hair and your shoulders, so that you're separated from your background. And also it happens to look a little bit like, the light of God is shining down behind you saying, look, here's a prophet. I mean, having 3 lights really does make you look smart. So there's a link in the documentation that if you click on it, it sort of explains 3-point lighting and gives you an example. So what you do need to have lights. You'll look better if you have lights. So I personally like lights that clip to my desk. And the reason is, if they clip to my desk and they have movable arms, I can position them wherever I need to position them when I'm speaking. Also, because they're clipping to my desk, if I decide to go someplace else and I want to record, I can just fold up my lights, stick them in my bag and take them with me, and unpack when I get there, and I'll have my lighting set up that I'm used to having at home. So they're incredibly portable, they're very light, and they're certainly bright enough to achieve what I want to achieve for the videos that I'm producing. When I want to record someone else remotely and I want them to look good, I can spend 20 or 30 bucks and I can ship them a bunch of ring lights. And I can say, clip this to your desk and plug it into your computer, and then they too will be well lit. So they're just a kind of a good portable lighting solution. Lighting kits, on the other hand, have a lot more bells and whistles in them. They may have tripods. They may have something that you can hang a background from, which is handy. We'll talk about why it's handy in a little bit. But when you want to hang a green screen background or something behind somebody, having a lighting kit is handy. You get more professional results when you're using something with big tripods and lighting stands and multiple diffuse lights, etc. It just, if you're going to be shooting a film, you're probably going to end up buying yourself a lighting kit. Backdrops come in a whole bunch of varieties. Now, I thought you should text me text me if you get a chance, if you don't know how to use green screen, because I can run an event on how to use green screen, and I can show you how to, if you have a green screen behind you that's brightly lit and you're in front of it and you're correctly lit, how you can replace the green screen with a picture of the seashore or anything else, you know, any amazing background that you want to have. So, you know, green screen is fun to use. I certainly recommend it. But generally speaking, when I'm shooting, I like to have a backdrop behind me. I like it to be still. And there's two different reasons. When I first started doing these events, I had my next door neighbor is the world's most insane gardener. So I used to have, I have outside my window, this woman's incredibly Getty level park. It's crazy. It's like such a beautiful background. And so I would shoot with this visible behind me. But the problem was, whenever I was editing the video, if I took out 5 seconds, you'd see a change in the lighting quality, which normally you wouldn't see. Normally, if I pull out something, you might see a little bit of a glitch, like a frame glitch, but you won't see a huge gap, a huge jump in terms of color. So then I started messing around with using a green screen behind me, but it made editing much more of a hassle because I had to do the composite of me, again, the green screen background with whatever I wanted to have behind me. If I just get a still background, I have a constant background. If I do cuts, they're much less noticeable, and I don't have to do any compositing. So just fixed, cool backgrounds that you hang behind you, they cost next to nothing, and they're really handy when you want to shoot. You want to be able to shoot yourself and just have something cool behind you instead of a bare wall. And there's no reason why you should have a bare wall. It doesn't cost anything to get one of these fine backgrounds to put up. The other thing is, if you're going to be shooting other people, you might as well buy them a background as well. So let's say, for example, that you and a friend or a business associate are going to start producing a podcast, and you decide, look, we're going to shoot it in video and we're going to make it available on YouTube, and then we're also going to make it available as a podcast. Well, you want to look good, so you're going to buy yourself a background and lights, and then you're going to buy your friend a background and lights as well, so you both look really great on your videos, right? And it doesn't cost much to do that, and the quality of the content that you create will be significantly more valuable. If you're going to be interviewing people and you're going to be using Zoom to do the interviews so that you can turn it, you know, like let's say you decide you're going to interview 30 great horror, you're going to create a documentary or a video class, kind of like those masterwork classes, where you interview 30 great authors on the stories that made them famous. So you might decide that for each of these authors, to make them look their very best, you're going to send them a little box that has, you know, a couple of ring lights and a nice background that they can hang up. You know, maybe they'll be up for it, maybe they won't. But many of them will say, yeah, that's cool. I like having some, I get presents for doing this job. How nice. It's so unusual to actually get something. Or let's say you're doing table readings. You may decide to send the actors that you're working with lights and a backdrop, so that when you're recording the video and you're seeing all 6 of them on the screen at the same time, they each have a different background behind them. So my point is, there's no reason for you not to buy these little widgets. If you're just buying them for yourself, you're certainly going to fall within the $100 budget. If you're buying it for other folks, for part of a production, obviously you're going to be spending a little bit more because you're dressing up other people's environments. But then again, you're engaged in full bore production. The next thing we're going to talk about is audio microphones and earphones. So initially, when I was actually recording podcasts and doing videos, I actually did use a USB microphone. But ultimately, I decided I didn't really like it better. I kind of like just the regular audio that I get off my computer better. So you may decide the same thing, in which case you don't need to have an audio microphone. If you do decide that you want a higher quality microphone, and some people have a lot more sensitive ears than me, and I commend them because they probably produce a lot higher quality content than I do, but they're going to want to buy microphones. And in a couple of minutes, when I take you to Amazon, I'll show you a bunch of different microphones you can get for cheap. The key thing is to get one. If you get a USB microphone that's designed to be used with a computer, what happens is you don't need to buy additional power for your microphone as a rule. The USB provides power, and it also provides the recording channel that your computer talks on. If you're not careful and you just buy any microphone, you might end up with one that needs to be actually pushed, needs actually to have another box that provides power and sort of other resources, which is not going to work out. So I strongly urge you to sort of, at least at the beginning, work with a USB microphone. You may find that the microphones that clamp to your desk or your table are handy because they keep your table or handy clear. Your table or desk clear. And there are a lot and if you think about it, the kind that they use in radio stations usually sort of are hung from the ceiling, and you can position them in front of you. And that makes it so you can't spill anything on them. That means that they don't get knocked over. And if you place them correctly, you don't bump into them if you happen to be moving around. You can get microphones that plug into your iPhone and your Android as well. Remember that you can do Bluetooth microphone solutions as well. I have used Bluetooth microphone solutions in order to record audio onto a phone. The problem with any kind of electronic connection to a cell phone is that if there's any kind of interruption, you're going to hear static and other noises or clicks or dropouts. And I don't like that. So generally speaking, I try to go with a wired connection when I'm connecting a microphone to my phone. For earphones, I usually go with fairly inexpensive ones because I'm editing voice podcasts and videos. And I tend to use earphones with standard earphone jacks instead of Bluetooth connections because I don't want to have to charge my Bluetooth. I don't like to charge my Bluetooth earphones. Actually, my husband actually bought me those nice white earphones from Apple. I think they're like, I don't even know how much they are, but they're never charged. They're never charged. So I have them with me all the time in a little packet that's attached to my keychain, and they are literally never charged. So I tend to go with physical connections just because I don't want to have to worry about charging things. Now, as you're creating content, you're going to need more than just the content that you create. You're going to need music, you're going to need sound effects, you're going to need video clips, you're going to need images to go, to create your products from time to time. I always use pond5.com. You can certainly find other people like the Getty site, and there's 100 other sites where you can buy video and audio files and so forth. I use pond5.com because I understand the licensing best. So if you do decide to buy content, particularly if you're buying music, you want to make sure that the content is licensed for commercial use, not just editorial use, but commercial use. And ideally, you want to make sure if it's licensed for commercial use, that's basically supposed to mean that the people that are in the photograph have given permission for the content to be used and sold. So you're not going to get in trouble with somebody saying, hey, that's, you're using my image and it's not legal for you to do it. If you're going to be licensing music, make sure that you pick out non-PRO music, which means non-performing rights organization music. If you use PRO music, what ends up happening is that if the content, your video, for example, or your podcast gets distributed there are some ways that you can distribute it that would automatically trigger you having to pay royalties, or you having to submit to the performing rights organization information about how and where it was distributed. And if you don't want that hassle, you have to use non-PRO music so that you don't have that. There's no way that you can have that obligation to the performing rights organizations. If you're going to be making ads, which most of us are, you might want to check out Ripl, R-I-P-L. It's basically a tool that lets you create advertisements very quickly and very easily on your iPhone. It's great for making social media advertisements, and it has You can basically take any series of still images and turn it into some amazing collage with a bunch of text, and you can say share, and it will share it on Facebook. It will share it on to your local computer, so you can post it anywhere you want. It will share it to Instagram. It will share it to Twitter. It's a handy way to be able to create teeny little, sexy little video clips that you can use as advertisements. When you're doing podcast distribution, I very much like Transistor FM, and the reason is because I can pay one $20 fee a month, and I can have as many podcasts as I want. And the only amount I get charged more based upon how many downloads I get every single month. So $20 a month gets me X number of downloads, and $40 a month gets me 2 or 3 times that amount of downloads. So I don't have to worry about, I don't have to spend $20 every single time I want to launch a new podcast. And I've decided I like podcasts almost as much as I like websites, and I have a lot of websites. And I spend actually way too much money on my websites, actually. And I spend far less on my podcast, which is another reason I like them so. When I want to distribute video, I use Gumroad.com, because for a single low monthly price, I can sell video. And if I want, I can sell it with workbooks and other resources along with the videos. And because it lets me do membership programs like the VIP Pro thing that you're a member of, right? Membership programs, there's 2 different things you can do: memberships and subscriptions. Memberships allow you to create a body of content that you make available to your customers. People pay a fixed cost, and every single month while they're a member, they get access to all of the resources that you've made available to members. If you do subscription-based stuff, it provides, you post something and it makes that available for that month, and the next month they get a different set of resources. So it's in a membership program, the content usually remains pretty constant, and in the subscription-based content system, it changes, the content available changes every single month, right? If you have a Scientific American subscription, you don't get all the articles Scientific American has made available ever to subscribers. You just get what's in that current monthly magazine. So Gumroad lets you sell individual files, it lets you sell groups of files as products, and it lets you sell memberships, and it lets you sell subscriptions. And it's got a really low monthly price. So, and it makes it easy to give products away as well as to sell them. So I use Gumroad to actually do most of my sales. And with Gumroad, I think you pay $10 a month and a little fee for every single thing that's sold. And I think if you get a lot of subscribers, then you pay a little bit more every month. But it's really a low cost solution, and I like it much, much, much on a scale of 1 to 10, 5,000 times better than I like Vimeo. I find Vimeo really troublesome, and I loathe with a passion YouTube. And the reason is because YouTube basically takes your content and gives it away for free, right? And in the old days, they used to actually give people a lot of advertising revenue, but these days they really don't. So when you distribute on YouTube, it's basically you're just making YouTube rich. And I really don't enjoy that very much. For me, for the most part, I use YouTube as a kind of as a social media marketing site. I don't use it to actually distribute anything. I just use it when I want to make something available so that when people search for me on YouTube, they can find something. I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to go and show you some of these things that we've been talking about. Now, we've been using Zoom, and if I go click on my account, so you can, obviously you've been here on Zoom with me, so you can see what you've got. You can see that you can run meetings, and you can have up to 100 people in a meeting, and you can have, if you buy the webinar service, then you can have up to 100 people in a webinar. And the only difference between the two is that webinars make it so that the people who are attending are like in an audience. They don't have, when you're running meetings, or sort of everybody's sort of peer-to-peer. And you can control who can talk and stuff like that, but it's a lot more work. With a webinar, it assumes that you're going to be the speaker, you're going to have other speakers like you, or cast members or whatever, and then you're going to have the hoi polloi audience. And those folks are not going to be talking unless you give them special permission. And for the most part, it just makes everything run much more smoothly. And webinars let you have tools like the Q&A tool and a bunch of other resources. So Zoom is a great solution, and you should take a look at it. And also the pricing is, again, not that expensive, right? $14.99 a month, up to 100 participants. And if you take a look at the webinars, spend $40, you can have up to 100 attendees, and you can have webinars that host up to 10,000. And people are starting to have, like artists, like musical artists, famous musical artists are starting to run Zoom concerts. And that's because you can have up to 10,000 paying customers on a Zoom webinar. We talked about editing movies. I like to use iMovie. It comes free on my Apple. You can always go to the Apple Mac, the Mac store, and you can upgrade your version of iMovie to the latest version. If you haven't done that in a while, it's not a bad investment. For people using a PC, you might find the Adobe Suite. The Adobe Premiere Pro is a good editing tool. It's not, most people that are doing commercial editing in this world are not using this. So when as your budgets go up, you're going to be using far more expensive editing tools. But if you're going to be creating, people have certainly created documentaries and films that are commercially distributed using Premiere. It's just, you're going to be doing something simple, not something complex, right? But it's cheap. It doesn't cost very much to actually, and it's got a free trial. So you can take a look at the resources that are available. Remember, for both iMovie, for all the tools that I'm talking about, but for iMovie and for Adobe Premiere, you can always go onto YouTube and say Adobe Premiere tutorial, or Audacity tutorial, or iMovie tutorial. And you can find tutorials that will teach you how to use the applications in a very short period of time. You also have, because you're VIP Pro members, you also have my tutorial or training on how to use Audacity, and a bunch of other resources that I've created to talk about the technical use of things like Zoom and so forth. This is Voice Recorder, an audio editor. Notice, so when you're looking for, there's a bunch of these and they all have very similar names. I like to use the one that looks like a 1960s tape recorder. I find this a very friendly tape recorder. And I think the thing I like about it is that to record, you launch the app and you press the record button. When you're done, you press, if you want to pause, you press stop. If you want to save the file because you're done, you press save as, and it creates the audio files. When you click on an audio file, you have the option to say transcribe, and that will turn it into text. And you can email that text to yourself. So you can do a 30-minute interview. We talked a moment ago about you doing a podcast, or you doing a documentary, for lack of a better word, where you interview 20 great writers or 30 great writers and the stories that made them famous. This would allow you to spend half an hour interviewing those folks and then transcribe the interview and turn the transcription into articles that you sell, or make them available on your website as stories, or turn them into the content that you use in the book, right? So it's handy to be able to take a recording and turn it into another form of content like text. So you can turn it into a book, or turn it into an article, or turn it into a blog post. So we talked about professional camera software that you can use on your iPhone that allows you to record at different frame rates and to different file formats at different resolutions. And if we take a look at this Procam 7, and we sort of, let's see if I can zoom in. Oops. So you notice up here it says RAW. I can record to RAW format, TIFF files, HDR, AEB, etc. And it lets me set the ISO of the film. So we live in the old days, you used to have film cameras had ISO settings, and which would make them more or less sensitive to light. So you can mimic that using the ISO settings. And it lets you choose the aspect ratio. Like you could, if you were demented, pick this nice square aspect ratio. And they just shot a commercial film, The Lighthouse, for some reason. The world's weirdest story was about people trapped at a lighthouse, and it was shot in a square format. I will never understand that. 4:3, sort of old style television setup. 16:9 is normally what you shoot films at, sort of these days. And you can specify if you want to have motion blur or lights and sort of other effects. You can mess around with perspective settings. So this is just a whole bunch of tools that you have available to you when it comes to shooting your film. So when you get a chance, you might, if you have an iPhone, you might mess around with the Pro Camera app. Or what's this one? This one's the ProCam 7. You can also, there's another app just to make your life a living hell. There's another option called Pro Camera. And if we zoom in on this thingamajiggy, you'll see it has the same kinds of settings, right? But it has different settings. So for example, it has rapid fire. So this is the thing where you press the button and it clicks a series of images. So it's you can use it to create very jerky series of images. It has an anti-shake setting, so it's kind of doing stabilization. It lets you pick the aspect ratio. It lets you do timers, so you can put yourself in front of the camera, run around to get in front of the camera. It has ISO settings, as we've become so excited by. It's got it'll let you record to HDR as well, which lets you create kind of more intense, cooler lighting effects. It's got a bunch of filters you can stick on, like if you want to put in diffuse and so forth, diffuse settings. It lets you shoot at 4K. You can shoot it up to 240 FPS. So if you want to do slow motion effects, like let's say you want to have shoot somebody doing skating tricks and they go down the ramp and you want to capture, you want it to be able to slow it down and see it in very slow motion. Or you can set the frames per second rate, or you can set it at 24, or you can 24 or 30, which is sort of standard frame rates that people shoot things at. It's got a white balance button. You never know how that could be nice, So this is sort of one of the tools that comes. One of the sets of tools that come, and that's the Pro Camera app. You can go to Pro Movie Recorder. Did I mention there's a lot of these? So if we take a look at this guy, so once again, this is 4K, 30 frames per second, and it lets you set the exposure just like you're using a regular camera. It lets you set the shutter speed. So it lets you set the film ISO, as we've talked about before. In the old days, you used to be able to have ISO. We used to have actual film, and you could determine how sensitive it was to light using, and the ISO was sort of that rating. Unless I'm wrong, feel free to text me and say, no, you have no idea what ISO was. My mother actually worked for a newspaper, and so I used to develop film, but I think I was 13 or 14 at the time. I have no idea what I did. Really, to this day, I don't know what, I've forgotten everything I ever knew about that. But when you get a chance, take a look at it. It's got focus button, zoom button, exposure, blah, blah, blah. It's got, it lets you lock on focus things, so you can make some things perfectly in focus and other things have them blend into the background. It lets you set your frame rate, your screen resolutions, 1080p, 3200 by 1800, etc. And it works with several versions of your camera, like iPhone 5, iPhone 6, da 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 da. And it will work with your iPad. I mean, you can just go to town with this stuff. And people have shot commercial movies using these tools. Okay, so this is that Tune camera thing. Remember I told you how much I love it and how I have just go crazy taking photos with it all the time. And I have these children that, when I happen to be out and about and they're looking particularly cool, I decide that I'm going to video them, and then I decide to turn them into black and white photos, sometimes black and white animations, and they don't like it at all, not one little bit, but it makes me happy, and I think that's really what matters. So you can see that you can use this. You can see how you might be able to use this to actually create a comic book, right? You can go to the actual locations, take the photos that you need, bring actors with you, and you can literally shoot the images that you need to create a comic book. And people have created comic books this way. And it does work on your iPhone, it does work on your iPad. And I think you can afford the $1.99. So there are Android camera apps. They're different than the ones that for iPhone because you don't have a guaranteed platform. But feel free to look around for the camera apps. You can see some of them do allow you to set ISO and HDR and brightness and saturation and other hardware controls. But it's not the same hardware all the time, so they can't give you the same level of control. If you go Google Pro Camera apps for Android 4K, you can see all the different tools that are available. And just start looking through them and experimenting to see which works best on your phone. So now we've dived into the lighting section. I like this lighting thing very much. Now, I seem to recall when I was buying it, it was $21. And this has only got one rating. But so this may not, and so when you get a chance, you might look around for one that's got so when you're buying anything on Amazon, what you want to see is 4 to 5 stars and 1,000 ratings or 500 ratings or 300 ratings, right? One rating just makes you anxious. So, but this lighting tool where it's got a clamp, it's got a thing to hold your phone if you would choose to attach your phone, and it's got a ring light of about 3 inches, and you can make it yellow or you can make it white or you can make it blue, and it plugs in with a USB connector. That's just a good thing. And again, if I want, I can go find other providers. There's a whole bunch of different other ones. I like ones that they clip to my desk. Here's one, $23. It doesn't have a thing that holds your phone. You can live without it. But there's a million ring lights. Everybody uses them all the time. This is a $23 one, 2020 upgraded version, 32 rankings. That, you never can tell how long that's going to go. Or $29 one. Just look around. This one's got crazy multiple arms. I don't know what's going on with that. And it's $55. I don't think anybody needs that many arms. You can also go wild and get a nice lighting kit. Now, back in the day, the old days, about 1 million years ago, when we were allowed outside and we could go to people's houses and things like that, this kind of kit would be one of the things I'd recommend that people get. And the reason is you could, in theory, set it up in your house, and it would allow you to make you look really good on camera. So when you're interviewing people, you're going to look really wonderful, because you got 3 lights here. You got diffuse lighting. You can use these white things to make it so when light hits you, it's very diffuse. You can use these reflectors. It's really great for when you're doing the light that hits the back of the head and shoulders. Just wonderful. And it fits in this nice little case. You can go places with it. You've got tripods. You can make them as high or as low as you want. It's just wonderful. But these days, when are you going to go somewhere? So you kind of have to think about whether or not it's worth it in the short term. But if you were going to go shooting stuff in the wild, I would recommend that you get this thing, because it's just nice to be able to shoot you and other people, right? So, and this thing costs all of $69, and it pretty much would solve any lighting problem you'll likely have until you start shooting something big. And they have a whole bunch of other lighting sets. So this one comes with a nice green screen, right? So same exact system, costs $165. And you see this frame? It's like a tripod and a bar across, and it's got this green thing. It's handy if you want to be able to shoot green screen, because you need to be able to, when you're shooting green screen, you need to be able to make the screen even and flat behind you. You need to illuminate it very brightly and consistently, because you want a uniform level of green. And then you need to illuminate you in front of it, so that in such a fashion that you've got a hard light on your shoulders and on the back of your head. And so your face and so forth is fully illuminated and doesn't have even the slightest bit of green, because you're going to replace anything that's green with whatever background you're planning to put in. So this tripod here can be handy if you just don't have the ability to nail a green screen to your wall, or if you want to be able to take your green screen with you. Now, you can, if you want, buy one of these cheap lighting sets and then go and buy yourself a green screen. Right? They're cheap. You can buy green screens. There's like a billion of them. And you can get ones that you hang up, and you can get the folding kind. Like, see this one? See, this one's like when you put in a bag, it's 6 by 10, and they give you the clamps to hang up behind you. And then there's some round ones that I don't actually like very much. So see these wrinkles here? That will just make you want to kill yourself. Wrinkles are the worst thing in the world. I don't want to have to iron my green screen. It makes me cranky. Let me go ahead and find. So sometimes people try to use these things. I don't like them very much because they're usually not big enough. You may decide you like them. They're small, and you can put them behind you. It's just a trick to figure out how to mount them such that you can't see the edges. So I don't really find these things too useful. You should definitely use them if you like them. They're cheap anyway. So this is over our budget, but it is the lights, the green screen, the clamps, and the thing to hold the green screen if you happen to want it, and the carrying case. Again, I don't necessarily see you doing that. I don't see you doing that in the next month or two. Maybe you will, but I just don't know if you're going to, because we're going to sort of be doing this COVID thing for a while. Now, when it comes to a background that you're just going to hang behind you, I just like to pick a background that's just a still background. This brick thing's okay, except it gets really boring after a while, and one starts to feel like, why are you sitting, like, explain to me why you are sitting with bricks behind you. Like, are you in the basement someplace? This is distressing. This thing's a little too fanciful, and also it looks like you're outside. It would be okay if you were shooting wedding photos or something, but it's not really going to be such a great thing. The book thing is handy. A lot of times people do buy bookshelves because it makes you look smart, a little lawyerly. I personally have a penchant for stuff like windows. I tend to always pick a window because I like windows, and you know, I like something that looks out on a garden. But you can find about 1 billion of these things. If you want, you can put a spaceship, enjoy yourself. This is very fanciful. If you're going to be telling ghost stories and so forth, you can use these. And these images are licensed for you to distribute. So using these backgrounds, you can freely use them. And you can, you know, put them in, if you're recording stuff that you're going to make available on YouTube and elsewhere, the images are licensed so that you can use them in this particular fashion. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So as fanciful as you possibly want. Right, so this one, you could use this if you wanted to pretend that you have like a really expensive Malibu house. You could use this if you want to pretend you've got a really, you're working in a really high-end office building. You know, and really, it's kind of just a signature. You know, it's just everything in the entertainment industry is about communicating ideas. So you're just giving people ideas to look at, right? You gotta have something behind you, pick something. So we talked about microphones. You can get a microphone like this. It's designed for gaming. So it's basically a USB mic. It's got this kind of spit guard, which makes it so you don't have clicks and you don't have, you know, all the weird guttural noises that people make get trapped by this thing, just so your audio sounds better. And this format means that you get good, even sound collection as a general rule. And it has all the full specifications. It's very stable. They have other ones, as I mentioned, that you can mount to your desktop. This may make you happier because it allows you to attach it to your desk and then push it up and out of the way. Or if you're interviewing a guest, it allows you to sort of put it between you. And it lets you control the volume and echo actually on the box if you feel so inclined. There's a million different kinds of mics. They come in a huge variety of forms. I think I used to use Blue Yeti. Yeah, I think I ended up using a Blue Yeti for a long time, and it sounded good. I just didn't like see the difference, and it was kind of a hassle. I just didn't like having the hassle of having to have a separate mic. So but it was a good microphone, and you might decide you like it. Many microphones are good. Once again, you're always going to look at something, and you're going to see how many stars it's got and how many people have rated it. Like this thing, clearly well loved. 16,000 people love it, and it's got 4.5 stars out of 5. If you're going to get in a microphone to plug into your phone, you can use, there's about 1 million of them. Sorry, there's about 1 million of them. And for example, this is the professional lavalier lapel microphone, omnidirectional condenser mic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This will let you clip on your lapel. Now, generally speaking, your phone is really good at capturing audio. People use just their phone all the time. That's why you can use it as a phone. You may find that when you're recording in windy environments or you're recording while you're driving, you may find that it actually is better to have something that clips close to your mouth and that has this little fuzzy ball on the top, because it tends to wipe out external noises. It tends to make the sound quality better. And this is like only $23. You may not need it, but if you start getting really bad audio, you might decide it's going to work out. It's going to work out particularly well. If you're going to be, now, I mentioned in passing, let's say you do decide to shoot a movie like we talked about earlier. So you're taking your iPhones, you're going to go shoot movies. I really strongly urge you to spend money and hire a sound engineer, to hire somebody who does nothing but record sound, because you're going to be picking up sound or audio on all of the phones, but it's not going to be very high quality audio. Whereas if you hire a sound engineer, he'll stick mics in all your actors, and he'll make sure that the mics don't interfere with one another, and he'll record the audio, and he'll give you a good mix of sound that you can use that will sound amazing. And the single most important thing So the quality of your film. The image is important, but if the sound is bad, it does not matter how good the image is. Really, you can get by with a worse image. I mean, people can make excuses for an image, but they're not going to make excuses for bad sound. So when you're recording an actual movie using the Pro Camera software, go buy yourself an actual sound engineer. You can find them on Craigslist. You can find them elsewhere. I don't think you're going to be doing that in the near term because I don't think it's really going to be safe to shoot anything for a while. So, but in the future, just keep it in mind. Sound engineers are worth the money you pay them. This is one that works with an Android. Again, it's the same kind of thing. You can plug it into your Android phone and it lets you record. Don't you notice down here at the bottom, they're talking about 12-channel wireless lavalier microphone systems, right? So this is basically something that lets you stick a mic on individual actors and allows you to record them. Again, I wouldn't do that. I would hire somebody to do the audio for me. Also, this only has 5 reviews and 4 stars. That's not enough reviews for me to be happy. So this is yet another microphone. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing. Note that it's a handheld device and it has an audio microphone plugged into it. So it's making it so the camera, you can hold this thing at the bottom and it will hold your camera and it will hold your microphone so that as you move the camera, the microphone will be pointed in the correct direction. That kind of thing's handy, right? So when you get a chance, you might want to experiment with that. It's a good way to collect some audio. There's certainly, I mentioned just for excitement's sake and not because you're going to need it and not because it falls within your $100 budget, but you can get a Steadicam for your iPhone. So Steadicams, this thing will make it so you can basically run with it and it will tend to keep your camera, it'll keep the jerkiness from screwing up your camera shot. So you can turn or twist and it'll keep it's just like a regular Steadicam like people use in the films all the time. So when you want to experiment with, there's just a billion different tools you can use for this kind of filming with your iPhone camera, right? And they can be these mounts that you attach to your camera, can hold your microphones, can hold your lights, they can do all kinds of stuff. I told you I like really cheap earphones. I know there's a lot of people that like much more expensive earphones. You should totally get, if you like really good audio sounds, you should totally do that. For me, kind of content that I'm creating doesn't necessarily need me to have the best possible sound. And so I don't need to hear, it doesn't have to be super, super high quality. It is good when you're doing audio and video editing to wear earphones because when you just hear the sound coming through the microphone on your computer, there's things you're not going to hear. You won't hear clicks, you won't hear people smacking their lips, you won't hear just a huge number of little creaks and groans. And when you're listening on an earphone, you will actually hear them. And it's handy for when you're producing podcasts as well, because it's only an audio product, so you want the audio to be good. We talked about getting audio and video on Pond 5, and if you've gone to a number of my events, you know that I love Pond 5, and I love, again, I don't get any recommendation or don't get any kickback or anything for recommending them. I just like them. When you're purchasing music tracks, so when you're doing an audio podcast or when you're doing a film, you're going to need music. So being able to go to music tracks and say, I want a harpsichord, or let's say I want to do rock, right? I can come here and I can say rock music. So I'm picking the trailer music for my film. I can say that I want non-PRO, and it gives me a list of things I can buy. And I can press this button and it'll actually play the music, and I can see how much I'm going to pay for it, and I can buy music. And I don't have to just use the music in one project, I can use it in multiple projects. So you may decide that you may pick the audio track that you're using for your podcast, and you may just use the same music over and over and over and over again. When you're making the cover for the products that you sell, you can go choose photos. For example, I can go to photos and type podcast. And I can say, I want it to be commercial, I want it to be landscape, and you know, I can pick these images for use in creating the image that I need to promote my podcast. You know, if I don't want to use my own photograph, or if I don't want to get some artwork that someone's commissioned, right? And when it comes to video, let's say, for example, I'm doing that ghost story we talked about in the Maine woods. I can say Maine woods, and I can go find footage, right? And you can see when I'm buying it, it's like, this is $79, $79. I mean, I can't go shoot something for $79. So this is all the different kinds of footage I can use. I can say that I want it to be commercial, which means I want to be able to use it. I want it to be 4K, and I want it to be at 24 frames per second, and I don't want it to have any people in it. And it looks like I might not be able to do that. Let's see what 30 gets me. Okay, so I got 30 frames per second, or I can go down to 29.7. So this is 29.7. So it may be the case, if you're going to shoot a film, you go and you find out what, you go start shopping for the clip footage that you're going to need to make your film, and then you just go ahead and shoot your film on your iPhone camera or whatever you're shooting it with at the resolution that you can get the best clip footage that you're going to use or for your film, right? Because it may be that this, no, your highest value shots may end up being these shots, because they're, you know, shot by professional, they're shot by professional filmmakers, and using very high quality equipment, and it will just be really high quality content. So if your stuff, if you want to use these shots and you want to make sure that you're not changing resolution or changing frame rate, you're going to choose the frame rate that goes with the footage that you want to actually pick. Sound effects are cool because they don't really cost very much. You know, sometimes they're only $2 or $3. And so you can have footsteps walking, you can have, you know, city streets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So rain, thunder. So you can experiment with these things. It's very cheap to buy this content and incorporate it into your work. We talked about Transistor FM. I like this pricing. I like this for my podcast hosting because I might spend $19 a month. I can create unlimited podcasts. I can get live technical support. I get analytics. I can have co-producers and give them access to the content. It gives me a free built-in podcast website. I can have up to 10,000 downloads a month. And it lets me have, you know, this is all stuff that if I was on another platform, I would have to pay for $20 for each podcast instead of just paying $20, you know, for as many as I want. And if I go, as I get more and more monthly people, or if I want to upgrade, if I want to be able to have a private podcast so that people, you know, I can control who listens to it, then I can go up to the more expensive settings. And I like have a lot of podcasts because I really like those folks. We talked about Gumroad, streaming video rentals. So when I want to sell videos, I can, as you know, I use Gumroad, which is why you have access. That's how come you get your stuff this way. And I can sell people videos that let's say, for example, you're somebody who shoots video and you want to be able to sell your video for people to incorporate into their own projects, or you're a musician and you want to be able to sell your music so people can download it. You can go to Pond5 and upload it there and make it available through their marketplace, or you can sell it directly to people through these streaming sites and make it so they can buy it and use it. Or you can make it so they can't download it, they can just listen to it online. So, and you can make it a rental, or you can make it a sale. The way that I make my stuff available is I do it using memberships. And the way memberships work is, as you know, you have access to all the content that I post for the duration of until you stop being a member. I can also, if I prefer, do subscriptions, which means that you get a different package of goods each month. So let's say, for example, you are teaching, let's say you basically are producing a monthly magazine. You could use the subscription tool to make it so every single month people get something different. But they don't get what they had last month, right? So I'm kind of crazy because I'm giving you like 165 files, but other people might say, listen, why would you not just give them 10 files this month and 10 files next month and 10 files the next month and 10 files the next month, you know? And I don't, because I actually want people to be able to, if you need to be able to learn how to do a podcast, I want you to have the resources to do a podcast. And if you need to be able to learn how to shoot a film for $10,000, I want you to have access to that information. I want to make it all available to you at one time. I don't want to really dole it out. But other people that are doing magazine content, they really do want to dole it out to you. So they do subscriptions. And if you want, you can just go Gumroads. Whenever you need help, you can go on any particular tool or feature. You can just use Google to find information about it, like Gumroad subscriptions versus memberships. And you'll see it has information that covers the difference between those two. So let me go ahead and bounce back to our video thing. So I've sort of gone through a whole set of resources, and you have the video, sorry, you have the workbook, and I'm going to make this video available to you tomorrow with next 24 hours after I edit it up. So everything that I've covered here, you have access to. You can, once you sort of figure out what you want to do, you can figure out what you're going to spend your $100 on. You might decide to spend up to $200. The stuff that you buy will last you for the next 2 or 3 years. Like, I've been using this particular set of lights I'm so fond of now for about, I want to say a year and a half. And it was because I gave the other ones away, and I think the person I gave them to is still using them. All right, I shall talk to you later, you guys. Thank you very much for coming. I really very much enjoyed seeing you.